But speaking of Wikipedia, and speaking of the fact that, it's no longer the views that make someone extreme right wing. Typically, you would be called extreme right wing if you espoused extreme right wing views, such as, I don't know, I don't want to say them, views on homosexuality, views on gay marriage, views on what would be typically extreme right wing views. I can't think of the classics that I would want to say. Outright bigotry, outright intolerance of ethnic minorities, religious minorities. Okay. Other than that, it used to be that having those views would make you a right-wing extremist. Now, it's the carriage in front of the horse. They pick a person that they don't like and then call them right-wing extremists, thereby transforming any of their views into right-wing extremist views. Even if you're pro-gay marriage, obviously. Even if you think homosexuality, even if you think what two full-grown adults decide to do with each other or with their own bodies is none of my business. Even if you think that, even if you believe in some form of, not certification, but license, some form, if you want some firearm restrictions, even if you believe in some of that, if they call you right-wing extremists, well, then those beliefs, which were otherwise not right-wing extremist beliefs, but actually pretty centrist and pretty reasonable, become extremist beliefs. And this is the tactic. It's the tactic. It's the wrap-up smear. It's you demonize the person, and therefore any belief, or thereby any belief that they've had, which would have otherwise been a reasonable belief, itself becomes an extreme belief. And where does it start? Well, it starts on Wikipedia. Look at Wikipedia. Eric Hunley, who has a great podcast, a great YouTube channel, Laid Back News, American Untold Stories. He's now doing a joint venture with Nate Brody, which is well worth following on the YouTubes. He sent me something, because I don't know how Wikipedia works, but the talk on Wikipedia. The talk on Wikipedia, which shows the edits that they tried to do on Wikipedia on any given entry. Now, it's not because I'm egocentric. He sent me the talk behind my Wikipedia page and the entries that people wanted to put in. And you got to see this. It's laughable. The tweet is, the talk on Wikipedia edits really illustrates why it's not just useless for anything remotely political, but actually itself a source of misinformation and politically motivated smears. These are the editors discussing edits to my Wikipedia page. And I just pulled up one. You got to read this. This is not ironic. It's not ironic. It's not sarcastic. At first, I thought it was. This is the actual discussion process in the talk page on my Wikipedia page. I'm a guy who voted for the Coalition Avenir de Québec. I'm a guy who believes in some reasonable restrictions or requirements for firearms. I do happen to think people should have to take a course, not necessarily have to have a license, because now I see what goes on when the government has a registry of, potentially political, ideological adversaries who might be firearm owners. And if the Trudeau government, knows that, there's very easy ways that they can weaponize that information. Without necessarily talking about registering so the government knows everything that you have in your house, I think a course should be obligatory. Because I do think firearms, they're like vehicles. You need to know what they do, how they operate, how they can go wrong, how you have to treat them. And I think that's reasonable. That makes me, and I know that that's going to upset a lot of the Second Amendment supporting fans that I have, who say, shall not be infringed in the States. In Canada, it's beyond that. It shall not be tolerated in any manner whatsoever. But so I know that that's going to upset people on both sides. But if someone just forget the ideas, just go after the person. That way you don't have to worry about the ideas. You don't have to worry about showing your homework. You just have to worry about making the accusations. Look at this, POV political views. This is the discussion they're having. The section describing his political views is laughable. Talk about being emotional in a thought process, using words like laughable, rhetorical, hyperbolic, emotional, not showing homework. The only sources are himself and a random blog. I don't even know what they're talking about. More neutral sources are urgently needed. How about the article in La Presse or Forbes magazine or McGill Alumni? How about any of those articles? Doesn't matter. The fact that he is claimed to be politically neutral right above a section detailing his membership in a right-wing political party is ridiculous. I presume they're talking about me having run for the People's Party of Canada. Imagine thinking that respecting the Constitution makes you not just conservative, I object to that as well, but right-wing. Listen to this one. I second the laugh. This is on Wikipedia, for which people go to get understandings of other people. I second the laughability that freights views as being politically neutral. Someone who is neutral doesn't sing the praises of every right-wing conspiracy theory that comes his way. Emotional, unsubstantiated, totally vapid, and totally baseless. But it doesn't matter. That's the accusation, and that's wherein lies the power. People who run for office under the banner of far-right, quasi-fascist parties shouldn't be called neutral. And it gets even worse. This is like I don't want to say the circle operation. This is a vortex of ideological silo, because it started with right-wing, and then it went to far-right, quasi-fascist, and they're feeding off each other. Listen to this. I totally agree. Viva is extreme hard-right. His streams consist of nonstop flows of fake news, conspiracy theories, and lies. The page is not accurate in its current state. Imagine this is what goes on in the back discussion, which is accessible to everybody. I don't know how Wikipedia works, but all I know is, incidentally, my Wikipedia page is not accurate to begin with. Wikipedia, here, let's do this. It's not accurate regardless, just because of a number of things. But this is what goes on in the backdrop of Wikipedia, a source that people actually use as a reference when talking about who's far right. It's a freaking joke. I gotta see what the chat says here. It's a freaking joke.